Unit 1, Recording 1. 1.
I've put Briar Farm for this one because that was the name of the farm that my aunt and uncle used to own. My mum and my sister and we used to go there every summer for our holidays. I absolutely loved it, all the animals and going on the tractor with my uncle and stuff like that. It was just a really special place for me.
2.
There isn't really any day of the week that I don't like, but I hate mornings. Oh, getting up first thing in the morning. I'm just not a morning person at all. It's a bit of a problem at the moment because I'm a hairdresser and I do a lot of work for TV and stuff. And normally it's fine because I work on programmes that start late, so I get up quite late. But at the moment I'm working on a film and I have to be there really, really early. I'm getting up at about 5 and it's killing me. I mean, the work itself is really interesting, but I just feel so horrible at that time of the morning.
3.
For this one, I've written Kathy. I met her when we were both working for this really awful boss. She was just the most horrible, nasty woman, and it was my first job. But I think Kathy had had a few different jobs before that. Anyway, we became very close because we both hated this boss so much. We used to go out for a coffee together and compare all the awful things she'd said to us. We were really good friends for a couple of years. We even went on holiday together once. But I haven't seen her for 3 or 4 years. I don't know why, really. We didn't fall out or anything, but somehow we've lost touch.
4.
Let me see. I remember the house where I was born was quite small, but it had a big garden. My parents had bought the house from an old man, and he'd built this amazing pond at the bottom of the garden. That's one of my earliest memories, really. I used to spend hours staring at the fish in this pond. I found them fascinating. It was probably quite dangerous, the pond, but no one seemed to worry very much. I think we lived there for about 5 years, and then we moved in about 1993, I think it was.
5.
Someone I've met quite recently is Emma. I've only known her for about 6 months. I met her at my exercise class, as it happens. We were standing next to each other and we just started talking. It's quite a coincidence, really, because obviously my name's Emma too, and my boyfriend's name is Johnny, and her husband's called John, or Johnny. We've all been out together a couple of times and it gets really confusing.
6.
Can't think of anything really for this one. Oh, I know. My cousin and his wife have had a baby. I think it was born about 3 weeks ago. A girl, I think. I don't remember its name. I'm not really into babies myself, but it looks quite sweet in the photo on Facebook.
Unit 1, Recording 2. 1.
We used to go there every summer for our holidays. I absolutely loved it.
2.
Normally it's fine because I work on programmes that start late, but at the moment I'm working on a film.
3.
It was my first job, but I think Kathy had had a few different jobs before that.
4.
I haven't seen her for 3 or 4 years.
5.
Somehow we've lost touch.
6.
I think we lived there for about 5 years.
7.
We were standing next to each other and we just started talking.
8.
It looks quite sweet in the photo on Facebook.
Unit 1, Recording 3.
Alec Weck is one of the world's most popular models. She has appeared in catwalk shows, high-profile advertising campaigns, and on the cover of Vogue magazine. Her life, however, hasn't been easy. Alec was born into a poor family in Sudan in 1977, the 7th of 9 children. In 1983, civil war broke out. Alec used to play out in the streets, but it got too dangerous to go out. In the end, Alec's family decided to leave their town and walk south. Eventually, the family ended up in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. Unfortunately, in Khartoum, Alec's father died. Many years before, he had had an operation on his hip, and during their long walk, it got badly infected. In 1991, Alec and her younger sister moved to the UK. Their older sister had moved there 3 years earlier, and later their mother joined them. In 1995, Alec was shopping at a market in London when a modelling scout approached her, and against her mother's advice, 18-year-old Alec decided to become a model. It was the right decision. She has been a top model for over 15 years. She also designs handbags and has written an autobiography called Alec. However, these days she is spending more and more time working for charities to help Africa, like the Refugee Council. In the 1990s, Alec Weck was changing the stereotype of how a model should look. Now, she is changing the stereotype of how a model should behave.
Unit 1, Recording 4.
And everything's still going well with Ben? You two still madly in love?
Yeah. Well, I need to talk to you about it sometime.
Why? What's wrong?
No, there's nothing wrong as such. It's just, we get on really well and everything, but I don't know. I don't think it's going anywhere. I just can't see us together in a few years' time.
No?
Not really, no. I just don't think we really want the same things. He's perfectly happy living here, doing the same things, seeing the same people, and, well, you know me, I've got so many plans and things I want to do.
And you don't think he's interested?
He says he is, but sometimes I think he's just telling me what I want to hear.
Do you?
And what's the point of staying together if you don't think there's any future?
Poor Ben.
I know. I do love him, and we do have a good time. I don't know. You won't say anything to anyone, will you? Because I really haven't decided what to do.
No, of course not. I wouldn't dream of it. You know you can trust me. I wouldn't say anything to anybody.
Unit 1, Recording 5.
So, have you seen Ben and Maz at all?
Yes, I have actually. I had coffee with Maz the other day.
Yeah? Everything okay?
Yeah.
You don't sound very sure.
No. Well, don't whatever you do mention this to Ben, will you?
No. What?
Only, I think she's going to finish with him.
You're not serious. He'll be devastated.
Well, they are very different people. She's always been super ambitious and super dynamic, and he's easygoing, happy with things the way they are. At the end of the day, she doesn't think they really have that much in common.
Poor Ben. So what exactly did she say?
I don't really know if I should say anything more. You must promise you won't say a word to him.
No, I promise. But you've got to tell me the whole story now you've started.
Well, what she told me was that she wasn't really sure that she wanted to go out with him anymore.
Unit 1, Recording 6.
So, everything all right, mate? Maz okay?
Yeah, great. She's studying like crazy as usual, but no, everything's good.
Good.
Actually, I'm planning a bit of a surprise for her.
Oh, are you? What's that then?
Well, you know how she loves the sun? Well, I'm going to book this big holiday in the sun for us both, for when she finishes her exams next summer. 2 weeks on a Greek island. She's going to love it. But it's a complete surprise, so don't say a word to her.
Are you sure Maz likes surprises? Don't you think you should, ask her where she wants to go? It's going to cost you a fortune, isn't it?
Oh, she'll like this. I know she will.
'Cause, she does have strong opinions about what she likes, doesn't she?
Nah, mate, it's cool. You don't know her like I do. She'll love it.
I don't know. I think it's a bit of a risk. If it was me, I'd definitely ask her before I booked it.
Hey, you're just not romantic like me, are you?
And also, she might make other plans. Things that she can't, change, and then she might not be able to go.
Nah, trust me. It'll be fine.
Unit 1, Recording 7. 1,
You don't think he's interested?
He says he is.
2,
I do love him and we do have a good time together.
3,
You won't say anything to anyone, will you?
4,
Have you seen Ben and Maz at all?
Yes, I have actually.
5,
I'm planning a bit of a surprise for her.
Oh, are you?
6,
It's going to cost you a fortune, isn't it?
7,
She'll like this. I know she will.
Unit 1, Recording 8. 1,
I've got some really interesting news. Do you want to hear it?
2,
John, you're not listening to me, are you?
3,
Was the party good on Saturday night?
4,
Have you heard? Annie and Phil have got engaged.
5,
We had a terrible journey home last night. We were nearly 2 hours late.
6,
I know you don't believe me.
7,
Listen, the neighbours are having an argument. Can you hear what they're saying?
8,
You didn't tell me you were moving house.
Unit 1, Recording 9. 1,
I've got some really interesting news. Do you want to hear it?
Of course I do.
2,
John, you're not listening to me, are you?
I am listening, darling.
3,
Was the party good on Saturday night?
No, to be honest, it wasn't.
4,
Have you heard? Annie and Phil have got engaged.
Really? Have they?
5,
We had a terrible journey home last night. We were nearly 2 hours late.
Oh no, were you?
6,
I know you don't believe me.
I do believe you.
7,
Listen, the neighbours are having an argument. Can you hear what they're saying?
No, I can't.
8,
You didn't tell me you were moving house.
I did, didn't I?
Unit 1, Recording 10.
Do you want to hear it?
John, you're not listening to me, are you?
Unit 1, Recording 11.
Of course I do.
I am listening, darling.
Unit 1, Recording 12. 1,
Okay. 2. Right. What are the pros and cons of coming from a large family?
I don't really know. I don't come from a large family.
Well, imagine if you did, what might be the good points?
Lots of Christmas presents.
Would you say that there wouldn't be anything bad about coming from a large family?
If you had a small house, it might be a bit cramped.
Anything else that you can think of?
No, not really, no. Well,
Oh, I think we're out of time.
2,
Okay, you'll go.
I go, okay. Oh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Oh, that's a good one. Who have you fallen out with in the past?
Oh, no. I did fall out with my sister quite recently. We had an argument last New Year's Eve, but I can't remember what we were arguing about.
Oh, no. So you don't actually know why you fell out?
No, it was... Well, I think we were arguing about something that happened to us in the past that we obviously hadn't brought up before.
Right. Something to do with the family, maybe?
Yes, yeah. If anything, it will definitely have been to do with the family.
And when was it? It was at Christmas, did you say?
No, last New Year's Eve.
Oh, New Year's Eve.
But I think because it was New Year's Eve,
Yeah.
you're feeling quite emotional and
definitely
excitable.
And it was your sister?
Yes, but we
Wow.
argue quite a lot anyway. And we're friends now.
3.
Okay. 2, 3. What is the ideal age to get married and why?
Well, I don't necessarily believe that there is an ideal age to get married. I mean, some men feel that they need to be a little bit older before they get married, and a lot of women feel that they're ready to get married earlier, and vice versa as well. Let me see. In times gone by, people got married quite young, and it's like, I think my parents got married when they were a lot younger. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. I'm sorry.
Unit 1, Recording 13. 1.
And most of the people there seem very friendly, so yeah, all that side of things is fine.
Good.
It's just that, well, I don't want to sound as if I'm moaning already or anything, but I've got a bit of a problem with my boss somehow. It's a bit hard to explain. When you first meet her, she seems perfectly nice. Good fun and young and everything. But I don't know. She's got this way of kind of ignoring whatever I say. She doesn't actually criticise me, not openly, but she just doesn't seem to take any of my suggestions very seriously.
Oh, how annoying.
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to be her assistant manager, not some junior who doesn't know anything about the job.
That sounds awful. Have you tried talking to anyone else about it? Or to her, even?
Well, I don't know. I don't feel as if I'm really well enough established there yet.
2.
Well, if we hurry, we might just get there. Oh, no.
What's the matter?
Look at the traffic. It's just solid. Oh, I don't believe it. I mean, how is anyone supposed to get around?
Okay. Calm down.
Will you stop telling me to calm down? It is so annoying. Oh, come on, will you?
Look, there's no point in getting upset about it. It's rush hour. There's bound to be a lot of traffic.
Yes, and when we turn up an hour late, I can imagine they're going to be really happy about it.
Okay, come on. We're not going to be an hour late. I tell you what, I'll give them a call and tell them we're stuck in traffic, okay?
Yeah, okay. I mean, there's not much else we can do, is there? Short of buying a private helicopter. I mean, the traffic in this town is just absolutely ridiculous.
3.
Hello?
Simon, it's Linda here.
Oh, hi. How's it going?
There's a bit of a crisis, actually. That's why I'm ringing. I don't know what to do.
Oh, dear. You haven't locked yourself out again, have you?
No, it's Tony.
Oh, Tony?
He should have been back hours ago. I mean, he's always here when I get in from work, always. And he's just not here. He's disappeared.
Oh, well, never mind. I'm sure he'll come back. He always does, doesn't he?
Yeah, but you never know what might have happened. I mean, he's not used to being out on his own.
Have you looked under the bed? That's where he was last time.
Of course I have. No, he's not in the flat. He's gone. I just don't know where.
Look, Linda, try not to worry about it. He's probably out with one of his girlfriends or something. Have you called him? He could be in the garden.
Yeah, I've looked everywhere. He's not in any of his usual places.
Unit 1, Recording 14. 1. A.
Never mind.
B.
Never mind.
2. A.
Cheer up.
B.
Cheer up.
3. A.
Try not to worry about it.
B.
Try not to worry about it.
4. A.
What a shame.
B.
What a shame.
5. A.
Just ignore him.
B.
Just ignore him.
Unit 1, Recording 15. 1.
You must be really worried.
2.
Don't worry, it doesn't matter.
3.
Try not to worry about it.
4.
Just ignore it.
5.
Don't take any notice of him.
6.
There's no point in getting upset.
7.
That sounds awful.
8.
How annoying.
9.
Cheer up.
10.
Never mind.
11.
Calm down.
12.
What a shame.
Unit 2, Recording 1. 1.
A profession in which people are often overpaid.
2.
A profession in which people are underpaid.
3.
The name of a person or place that looks after preschool children.
4.
The name of someone you know who is very anti-smoking.
5.
A public place that is usually non-smoking.
6.
A popular postgraduate degree course.
7.
The name of a famous person who seems very self-centered.
8.
The name of someone you know who is very self-critical.
Unit 2, Recording 2. Frankie.
Yeah, well, I guess it's all the normal stuff for a student, really. Having an active social life makes me happy, and my friends are important. Good friendships are always important, aren't they? What else? Well, I guess I like my subject. I just enjoy the intellectual stimulation of philosophy, even if the tutors are a bit crazy sometimes. But the other side of it that I don't enjoy so much is the loneliness. All those late nights studying on my own. And sometimes, I get nervous about exams. I failed my last one, so, exam stress is definitely a problem for me. And I guess I'd like to meet more people. It's like, lack of confidence can hold me back a bit sometimes.
Rick.
Let's start with the things that make me feel bad. What I really hate is lack of sleep. It leaves me just exhausted. And because I'm so tired, I fall asleep in the evening when I should be relaxing. So yeah, not having time to relax is also a problem. The other thing that annoys me is criticism from my family, from my wife in particular. She works long hours, you know. She's a currency trader in the city. So sometimes when she comes home, her complaints can really wind me up. But the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. I mean, watching my children grow up is the most important thing in the world to me. Spending so much time with them, even if it is a bit exhausting. And I enjoy being a bit of a nonconformist. I'm the only dad around here who looks after the kids, and I like that, being a bit different.
Nancy.
Being the CEO of a big company has a lot of advantages, of course. It's my company and nobody tells me what to do. That's number one for me. I like being an employer, not an employee. You know, I don't like firing people, but I do it if I have to. Then, of course, financial security makes me feel good. I earn a good salary, but I work hard, so I deserve it. My company does market research for corporate clients, so yes, I'm the face of the company. It's an important role. So, what makes me feel bad? Well, firing people, like I said, and, well, personally, I think the taxes in this country are too high. So, no, I don't like paying taxes. But then, who does? And I guess I worry about where society is going. I worry about antisocial behaviour on the streets. That makes me feel bad. All in all, though, I'm happy with life. I work hard, and that brings results.
Unit 2, Recording 3.
Anxiety. Confidence. Conformist. Criticism. Employee. Excitement. Exhaustion. Loneliness. Relationship. Security.
Unit 2, Recording 4. 1.
There are a few things that scare me, but probably one of my biggest fears would be spiders. I just really, really hate them. The small ones aren't so bad, but when you get a big one, like in the bath, if you find it in the bath when you go in, that's just really, really horrible. And I can't really, I wouldn't ever want to touch one or anything like that. Sometimes I get somebody to go in before me if I think that there's a likelihood that there might be a spider in a room. But yeah, that's probably one of my biggest fears.
2.
My problem is that nearly everything makes me giggle because it depends on my mood. It depends if I've not had much sleep, for example. Oh my goodness. Then I just can't hold the giggles in. And the more serious it is, like if I'm at work or something, the worse the giggles get because I know I'm not supposed to do it. So if somebody says something that I find mildly amusing in normal life, if the stakes are higher and I'm at work and it's a really important meeting and I'm a little bit tired, then I just go to pieces. It's terrible. And somebody can just look at me the wrong way and I've gone and I cannot stop either. And the more I try to stop, the more impossible it is. It's even happening now. Brilliant.
3.
I think it's fair to say that I am governed by time. I think I resent it, but it's true. And the idea of being late just makes me really, really stressed. I always try and get somewhere. Well, I always try to get where I'm going at least half an hour in advance because the idea of being late just, you know, there's a chemical reaction in my body and I can't deal with it. So I would say that being on time is very important to me, and if I'm not going to be on time, I get incredibly, incredibly stressed out by it.
4.
I think something that's quite new to me makes me really happy. I've recently become a father, and seeing my little boy when I go home is like the best thing in the world. And going through the front door, and often he'll hear the front door open and I can hear him wherever he is around the house kind of shouting and screaming, and then he'll run down and just give me like a massive cuddle, and it's just the best thing in the world, and it just fills me with joy. Seeing his little face, he's happy, I'm happy, and it's just amazing, yeah. Hearing him laugh makes me laugh, and it's something that's really tough, but actually the main thing is it just makes me so happy all the time. So, yeah, my little boy.
5.
I find things like crime and war and poverty and things like that very depressing because there doesn't seem to be a solution. I don't think there ever will be, and that's depressing, because we hope nobody really wants those things to exist, and yet they always do. It's like illness, and as soon as we've cured something, another illness pops up because that's just life. So, that makes me sad. And some of those things, we can work on and improve upon. But again, you can't help feeling like people are just people. And unfortunately, we're stuck with those things, I think. It's humanity.
Unit 3, Recording 1. Claire.
This was really embarrassing. I was about 17, and this guy I really liked asked me out. And it wasn't the first time I'd been on a date, but it was like the first time I'd been on a date to a restaurant, and I was really nervous and excited, even though it was only a burger restaurant. Anyway, I ordered my burger, but I was so nervous and I was talking so much that I got confused and put sugar on my burger instead of salt. But I was too embarrassed to say anything, and I don't think he noticed, or if he did, he was too polite to say. So I had to sit there and eat this burger covered in sugar and pretend that I was enjoying it, and it was so disgusting. We did see each other again, but I never admitted what had happened. I just felt too silly.
Luke.
A few years ago, I had this job in a hotel for a few months, a kind of temporary job. Normally, I served in the bar, which was quite easy. But one day, after I'd been working at the hotel for a few weeks, they had a big dinner event, and a lot of the waiters were sick. I don't know why, so they were a bit desperate, and they asked me to wait on the tables. But I hadn't done any training as a waiter, so I was very nervous. It was quite a smart event. Everyone was wearing evening dress, and it was all quite formal, so obviously I was feeling quite stressed. Anyway, I was serving vegetables at this table, mashed potato to be precise, and I had this big spoonful of mashed potato in my hand. Then suddenly, for no reason really, I kind of tripped and fell forward, and the mashed potato went flying off the spoon and landed on the shoulder of one of the women at the table. So there was this 60-year-old woman sitting in her best dress with a great big piece of mashed potato on her shoulder. I felt so humiliated.
Rachel.
There's a family story about my great-aunt and uncle, which sounds a bit like a bad comedy sketch, but apparently it's completely true. They lived in a remote part of Wales, and they were travelling to London for some reason, which was a big thing for them because they didn't travel much. Anyway, they'd been travelling for a few hours, and the train stopped at some station. And in those days, trains used to stop for quite a long time, and people got off and bought cups of tea and stuff. So my great-aunt got off. She wasn't wearing her coat or hat, and it was the middle of winter, and she went into the station buffet to buy 2 cups of tea. But unfortunately, she came back out through the wrong door onto the opposite platform and got onto another train, which was going back to Wales. Apparently, she was searching for my uncle for ages before she realised what she'd done. And of course, he was going absolutely mad worrying about her. I think they stopped travelling completely after that. It was just too much for them.
Unit 3, Recording 2. 1.
I was talking so much that I got confused and put sugar on my burger instead of salt.
2.
We did see each other again, but I never admitted what had happened.
3.
One day, after I'd been working at the hotel for a few weeks, they had a big dinner event.
4.
They asked me to wait on the tables, but I hadn't done any training as a waiter, so I was very nervous.
5.
I was serving vegetables at a table when suddenly I tripped and fell.
6.
They had been travelling for a while when the train stopped at a station.
7.
She got on another train which was going back to Wales.
Unit 3, Recording 3. A.
It's not uncommon for people to fall asleep on trains, but snoring loudly in public is another matter. One day recently, I was reading my newspaper on the train when I became aware of a loud snoring sound coming from the man opposite me. As the train was coming into the last station on the line, I gave the man a sharp poke with my umbrella to wake him up. Instead of being grateful, he looked at me furiously. He hadn't been asleep at all. The snoring was coming from the enormous dog who was lying at his feet.
B.
An Australian woman travelling home from Melbourne was driving down a narrow road one dark evening when she entered a tunnel. Although a little surprised at this, as she hadn't noticed a tunnel on that route before, she carried on. But after half an hour of twisting and turning, she ran out of petrol. It was completely dark in the tunnel, so she decided to wait for help. She had only been waiting for a few minutes when she saw 3 men coming towards her. Rather surprisingly, the 3 men were wearing helmets with lamps on the front. The 3 men seemed even more surprised to see her. It was then that the woman realised that she had driven into a coal mine.
Unit 3, Recording 4.
It was about midnight, I guess. I was coming home from a Christmas party with my friend Frank. It was very, very cold, absolutely freezing. There was thick ice everywhere, and it had been snowing for several hours. Actually, maybe it was still snowing, because we really couldn't see where we were going. The road we were walking down was on a really steep hill too, so you can imagine it was just so slippery, and we couldn't see a thing, so, well, we just kept falling over. We'd get up and 2 seconds later, we fell over again. Not because we were drunk or anything, but just because it was so slippery. Anyway, for some reason, this all began to seem very funny, and we were laughing our heads off and calling to each other for help, you know. We really didn't know how we were going to get down that hill. We weren't making any progress at all. Well, eventually, we realised that the only way we could move at all was if we held onto the cars that were parked in the street for support. So that's what we did, and slowly we were managing to move along. Except suddenly, this police car drew up and 2 police officers got out and started shouting at us. We tried to talk to them and find out what the problem was, but they wouldn't listen to us. They just pushed us in the back of the car and drove us to the nearest police station. To be honest, I can't remember much after that, but a few hours later, I woke up in a police cell, feeling absolutely terrified, not to mention freezing cold.
Unit 3, Recording 5.
It all happened at about 1 o'clock in the morning, I would say. I had gone to bed at 10, as usual, but I had to get up to go to the bathroom. As I was getting back into bed, I heard this dreadful noise outside in the street, men shouting. So, of course, I went to the window to see what was going on. Anyway, I looked out and saw these 2 young men just outside my house. They were swaying all over the place, shouting and swearing at each other. They had obviously been drinking. You could see they were drunk. Very aggressive and nasty-looking types. Then I noticed that they were doing something to the cars. It was a very clear night with a full moon, so I could see everything. They were banging on all the car windows, trying to break into them. Obviously, as soon as I realised what was going on, I called the police straight away, and thank goodness they came more or less immediately, and arrested them before they could do any damage. It was very lucky I happened to wake up and catch them. Otherwise, I'm sure half the cars in the neighbourhood would have been robbed, even stolen. This is a nice neighbourhood. People have expensive cars with all sorts of expensive things in them. It was very lucky that I saw it all.
Unit 3, Recording 6. 1.
Oh, just the usual kind of things I do every morning. Tidying up, washing.
I've been answering emails all morning, mostly boring ones from my boss.
2.
Not long. This is just my third lesson, so yeah, a couple of weeks, that's all.
I've been learning to drive for about a year. I've had, I don't know how many lessons. I just can't seem to get the hang of it somehow. I don't know how I'll ever pass my test.
3.
8 o'clock? Don't know. Watching TV, probably.
Well, in fact, I know exactly what I'll be doing at 8 o'clock this evening. I'll be babysitting. That's what I always do on a Friday evening.
4.
I've just bought this really nice black shirt, so I'll probably be wearing that.
I've got absolutely no idea. I never think about what I'm going to wear each day. I just open the wardrobe and put on the first thing I see.
5.
Not long, actually. We just moved in about 6 months ago.
Let me see. We've been living in this flat for about 8 years.
6.
This time tomorrow, the same as I am now, I suppose. Sitting in a classroom studying.
Well, tomorrow's Saturday, isn't it? So I can't be totally sure, but I'll probably be playing football in the park with my friends.
Unit 3, Recording 7. 1.
What have you been doing this morning?
Oh, just the usual kind of things I do every morning. Tidying up, washing.
I've been answering emails all morning, mostly boring ones from my boss.
2.
How long have you been learning to drive?
Not long. This is just my third lesson, so yeah, a couple of weeks, that's all.
I've been learning to drive for about a year. I've had, I don't know how many lessons. I just can't seem to get the hang of it somehow. I don't know how I'll ever pass my test.
3.
What will you be doing at 8 o'clock this evening?
8 o'clock? Don't know. Watching TV, probably.
Well, in fact, I know exactly what I'll be doing at 8 o'clock this evening. I'll be babysitting. That's what I always do on a Friday evening.
4.
What will you be wearing tomorrow?
I've just bought this really nice black shirt, so I'll probably be wearing that.
I've got absolutely no idea. I never think about what I'm going to wear each day. I just open the wardrobe and put on the first thing I see.
5.
How long have you been living in your present flat?
Not long, actually. We just moved in about 6 months ago.
Let me see. We've been living in this flat for about 8 years.
6.
What will you be doing this time tomorrow?
This time tomorrow? The same as I am now, I suppose. Sitting in a classroom studying.
Well, tomorrow's Saturday, isn't it? So I can't be totally sure, but I'll probably be playing football in the park with my friends.
Unit 3, Recording 8. A.
Reporting live from outside the courthouse in Swindon is our reporter Deborah Manning.
Thank you, Jackie. Judge Mark Horton handed down suspended sentences of 11 months in jail each to Amanda and Michael Stacey today, following a trial in which the couple were found guilty of fraud and theft. The charges related to an incident 9 months ago when Amanda found a lottery ticket on the floor of her local co-op supermarket. Amanda and her husband claimed the £30,000 prize when the ticket won. Unfortunately for them, the real owner of the ticket, Dorothy McDonough, realised that she had lost the ticket and immediately informed the police. At the trial, it emerged that the Stacys had already spent half the money. The judge ordered them to repay the remaining £15,000 to Mrs. McDonough, along with £111 interest. He did not, however, order them to repay the £15,000 they had already spent, instead just imposing a £5 fine. Mrs. McDonough will have to take the Stacys to court to get that money, and after legal fees, it is doubtful that she would see much of it. Back to you, Jackie.
B.
Now, Robin, I believe you have a further update on the Leon Walker story.
That's right, Greg. Leon Walker, you'll remember, was the man from Rochester Hills in Michigan who was charged back in 2010 with hacking into his wife's email account. He maintained his innocence, but his wife, Clara, went on television to talk about how violated she had felt. Well, Greg, 2 years after Leon was charged and right before he was due to go on trial, prosecutors have unexpectedly dropped the charges against Leon. And the reason? It turns out that Clara had been reading her husband's text messages while they were still married and had admitted to this in an email. Leon described himself as relieved but angry.
Astonishing news. Now, over to our sports desk where Jamie has some news about David Beckham and...
C.
And I have our science correspondent, Robert Walsh, here in the studio with me. Robert, before we catch up on all the latest developments in the world of science, can you tell me what happened to Richard Handel?
Yes, absolutely, Don. Well, as our listeners probably remember, Richard Handel was the man who tried to set up a mini nuclear reactor in his kitchen. Using radioactive materials that he'd bought, Mr. Handel attempted to split the atom, and he posted the results online, along with the now famous picture of his cooker after the experiment.
Yes, I remember that.
Of course, when the police were alerted to what Mr. Handel was doing, they confiscated all his nuclear material and his computer. Mr. Handel faced the prospect of up to 2 years in prison. So, as you say, Don, what has happened to him? Well, the answer is absolutely nothing. Since they confiscated his radioactive material several months ago, neither the police nor the Swedish Radiation Authority have been in touch. So it looks like Mr. Handel won't be prosecuted after all.
Well, that's good news for amateur scientists, I guess. Now, on to this week's other science stories, Rob.
Unit 3, Recording 9. 1.
Tickets, please. Thank you. Tickets, please. Your ticket, sir.
I'm sorry, but I don't have one. The machine at the station wasn't working.
You need a valid ticket, sir. Otherwise, you'll have to pay a £50 fine.
I understand that, but I couldn't buy a ticket. The machine wasn't working.
Where did you board the train, sir?
Penley South.
There's a ticket office at that station, sir. You could have bought your ticket there.
It doesn't open until 8 o'clock, and this train left at 7:30. Look, I want to buy a ticket. I'm happy to pay for one now, but I can't buy one if the machine is broken.
Well, I'm sorry, sir, but I'm just doing my job. You have to have a ticket before you board the train.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't I buy a ticket now, and then everyone is happy?
I don't think so, sir. If you don't have a ticket, I have to fine you.
Look, this is ridiculous. I'm not a criminal. I want to pay for my ticket.
Well, all right, sir, but just this once. Where are you travelling to?
2.
Wow, what a huge space.
Yes, beautiful. So much to explore.
This museum was only opened in 2010, you know. It's the largest in the country.
Oh, really?
Yes, it houses some of the most important Roman artifacts in the world. I can show you around some of the highlights if you like.
Well, what do you think, Beth?
Okay. I mean, if you've got the time.
Oh, sure. I like to show people around. Come on, follow me. I'll take you first to, And all of those coins were found by a farmer who was digging up his field. What a lucky guy, huh?
Wow, how interesting.
So, here we are back where we started.
Well, thank you so much. That was really kind of you.
Oh, don't mention it. You know, I usually charge £30 for my tours, but you have been such good company that for you, it's only 25.
Sorry, your tours?
Yes, my tours. I hope you thought it was worth the money.
Oh, right. Yes, I see.
Look, there's been a misunderstanding. We didn't realise that you wanted to be paid.
Well, it's only £25. It's more of a gift, really. I help you out with an informative tour, and you help me out with a small gift.
I don't think that's fair. You should have told us at the start.
Didn't you enjoy the tour? Most of my customers are...
That's the thing, you see. We aren't your customers.
Well, look, I can see it's just a bit of a misunderstanding, and I appreciate what you're saying. Let's call it £20.
No, you don't understand. We really aren't your customers. Thank you for your time, but we're not going to pay you for it. Come on, I want to get back to that room with the Roman coins.
3.
Hello, madam.
Hello. We booked a table for 2. The name is Pole. P-O-L-E.
Right. Yes, right. Ms. Pole. That table was for 8 o'clock, wasn't it?
Yes, 8 o'clock, that's right.
Well, I'm afraid we had to give your table away. As you see, we're very busy, and we weren't sure if you were coming, so we had to give your table to someone else.
What do you mean you've given it to someone else? I booked it.
Well, it is almost 9:15, madam. We get a lot of customers booking and not turning up, so generally, if anyone is more than half an hour late, we give their table to someone else.
Oh, honestly, it's not my fault that we couldn't find a parking space.
I understand that, madam, and I'm really sorry, but as you can see, we're completely full.
I can see that, but this is very unfair. Perhaps I need to speak to the manager.
Bear with me a minute, madam, and I'll see what we can do. Perhaps one of our customers who booked for 8:30 won't show up. If you just take a seat at the bar, I'll have another look.
Unit 3, Recording 10.
I understand that, but I couldn't buy a ticket. I understand that, but I couldn't buy a ticket.
Unit 3, Recording 11. 1.
I understand that, but I couldn't buy a ticket.
2.
Can I make a suggestion? Why don't I buy a ticket now?
3.
Look, this is ridiculous. I'm not a criminal.
4.
Look, there's been a misunderstanding. We didn't realise that you wanted to be paid.
5.
I don't think that's fair. You should have told us at the start.
6.
No, you don't understand. We really aren't your customers.
7.
What do you mean you've given it to someone else?
8.
It's not my fault that we couldn't find a parking space.
9.
I can see that, but this is very unfair. Perhaps I need to speak to the manager.
Unit 4, Recording 1. 1.
The answer is 80. In each case, you subtract an odd number to the previous number. First 1, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 9. The question is designed to test logic and, to some extent, mathematical skills, although the mathematical skills required are not very great.
2.
This question, of course, tests memory, and the average number of items that people remember is 8. The best way to remember a list like this is if you group similar items together. For example, here you could group together all the items that you need to buy at the supermarket. Although memory is not directly linked to intelligence, it is a very useful function and it can be improved significantly by using memory techniques like grouping.
3.
The answer is 30. This question tests visual and spatial skills, since the shape has to be rotated in the mind's eye in order to count the sides. These are the kind of skills needed by architects, for example, but many people who are very intelligent in other ways cannot do this kind of activity, and such skills cannot easily be taught.
4.
This question is designed to test emotional intelligence, and if you choose any of the answers given, then you are wrong. According to experts, you should discuss the situation with the child and help her to think of solutions to the problem herself. And the children certainly shouldn't be bribed with biscuits, as this will not provide a long-term solution to the problem.
5.
This question is designed to test creativity and imagination. There are no correct answers as such, but on average, people think of 11 uses for a newspaper in 2 minutes. The most common ones are to read, to start a fire with, and to cover the floor while painting. But some people come up with very unusual ideas. One person suggested that the newspaper could be used to wrap up a baby, and another suggested using it to write blackmail letters.
6.
This question tests problem-solving skills and logic. So, did you get the answer? First, you take the goat across, leaving the wolf and the cabbage. Then you go back and take the wolf across. Then you go back again, taking the goat with you. After this, you take the cabbage across, leaving the goat on the side where you started. Then you go back again, leaving the wolf with the cabbage. Finally, you take the goat across again.
7.
Strangely, the answer to this question is that whatever you choose is the correct answer. It has been shown in a number of studies that if you think you are very creative, then you are very creative. And if you think you aren't creative, then you're not. They say that the strongest power we possess is self-belief, and perhaps this study is the ultimate proof.
Unit 4, Recording 2. 1.
This question is designed to test logic and mathematical skills, but the mathematical skills that are required are not very great.
2.
The average number of items that people remembered was 8.
3.
The best way to remember is if you group all the similar items together.
4.
The shape has to be rotated in the mind's eye.
5.
Visual skills cannot easily be taught.
6.
According to experts, you should discuss the situation with the child.
7.
Children certainly should not be bribed with biscuits.
8.
It has been shown in studies that if you think you are very creative, then you are very creative.
9.
They say that the strongest power we possess is self-belief.
Unit 4, Recording 3.
Psychologist, scientist, environment, medicine, theory, ethics, genes, analysis, experience, neurotic, experiment.
Unit 4, Recording 4. 1.
And on line 2, it's Vince. Hello, Vince. You're through to Opinion on 96.5 Talk FM. What do you want to say?
Well, I'm not sure if I should say this, but...
You can say what you like on this show, Vince. Go on.
2.
Oh, I can't be bothered to cook. Shall we order a takeaway?
Yeah, all right. Do you fancy a pizza or a curry or...
Either of those would be fine.
3.
Can I borrow your phone? I think I've left mine at home.
No, you haven't. Look, it's over there. Honestly, what's the matter with you? You're so... these days.
Unit 4, Recording 5.
Redland Staff Services.
Hello. I'm trying to hire a new PA, and I was wondering if you could help.
Certainly. Is the PA going to work with you?
Yes, that's right. I've had a few applications, but I'm not sure where to go from here. I mean, can I have the applicants interviewed?
Certainly. We can provide a detailed report on each applicant. You can even have their personalities assessed.
Okay.
And you can have their IQ tested as well, if you want even more information.
It all sounds good. Can you send me some information about how much it all costs?
Of course. Let me take your email address.
Unit 4, Recording 6.
This week, it has been reported that the Mars 500 space mission has landed after more than 17 months. With us to discuss this fascinating experiment is our science correspondent, David Simpson. David, for those listeners who are not familiar with the Mars 500 mission, could you tell us about it?
Well, the Mars 500 mission was actually a simulated space mission in which 6 international volunteers, 3 Russians, 2 other Europeans and a Chinese man, spent 520 days in a space capsule buried beneath a car park in a suburb of Moscow.
And what exactly was the point of that?
Well, scientists wanted to study the physical and especially the psychological effects of spending that amount of time in the confinement and isolation of a space capsule, which is, of course, what a space crew would have to do if they travelled to Mars, for example.
And why is that useful?
Well, it would help in future to select the right kind of people to take part in this kind of mission. So, for example, the crew's stress levels and moods were carefully monitored and the kind of issues that created conflict.
And what did they find?
Well, the data is still being analysed. However, while it has been stressed by the ESA, the European Space Agency, that overall the 6 men got on well and worked successfully as a team, although there were issues, certainly.
For example?
Well, you have to remember that the 6 men had to deal with the boredom and isolation of 17 months together, and it seems that in these highly stressful circumstances, small jealousies can easily become a problem. For example, the men had a lot of chores and tasks which they had to share out and organise themselves, and it was felt that the workload wasn't always fair, and this caused problems. There were also jealousies over who had the most contact with their family and friends back home, and there were also certain tensions between the different nationalities.
Wouldn't it have been easier if all the men had been of the same nationality?
Possibly, but you have to remember that any future mission to Mars will almost certainly be international, so this was one of the issues that had to be looked at.
So what conclusions can be drawn about the kind of people that are suitable for such a mission in future?
Well, as I say, the data is still being analysed, but I think there are certain obvious conclusions. The crew of any such mission would have to be extremely self-sufficient to deal with the incredible boredom and isolation, and to be able to deal with all the unexpected problems that might arise during the mission. This is also an incredibly stressful situation, and so they would have to be able to stay calm under pressure, and obviously they would need to be able to get on with each other and work as a team, yet provide leadership where necessary.
Does it ever happen that crews on missions like this simply don't get on?
Well, generally the crew's frustrations tend to be directed towards the ground crew at Mission Control. It is common for the space crew to complain that they are not being sufficiently supported by the ground crew. But there was one case where the two crew members on a mission together didn't get on at all.
Oh, what happened?
Well, it was a Russian space mission in 1982, and the two crew members hardly spoke to each other for the whole 211-day mission because they just got on each other's nerves, basically. They just didn't like each other.
Imagine spending 211 days alone with someone you can't stand. That certainly sounds stressful. David Simpson, thank you very much. And now to something a little more.
Unit 5, Recording 1.
Here, this coffee's for you.
Thanks, Mike.
A £5 for 2 coffees. It's such a rip-off here.
I know. Here, I'll pay for mine.
Nah, don't be silly. Now, do you want to tell me why you're stressed out about Daniel?
The thing is, when we chat online or on the phone, he's really friendly. But then when we meet up, he's like a different person.
How come?
Well, it just seems really off with me. Like yesterday, we had a real laugh on the phone. He was like, hey, we're going to have a great time at the party this evening, blah, blah, blah. But then when we met up, he was just distant.
The thing about Daniel is, he's just incredibly shy. I mean, he just can't help himself.
Unit 5, Recording 2.
According to recent research, over 60% of new couples in the USA now meet online. But it's perhaps surprising that any of those relationships ever get started in the first place because over 80% of people lie in their online profile. Clearly, the temptation to exaggerate is just too great for most people. The most common lie that men tell is about their job. They exaggerate the importance of their job, or they lie about the industry that they work in. The most common lie is claiming to work in finance or the film industry. The men hope, presumably, that women will fall hopelessly in love with them on the first date and not care when they find out that he isn't really a film director but actually drives a taxi. Men also tend to claim that they have a PA, when in fact they don't. Apart from their career, men are most likely to lie about their height and body shape, choosing, for example, to describe themselves as athletic or muscular rather than average build. The top 2 lies that women tell in their online profile concern their age and body shape. Women typically take 4 years off their true age and present themselves as slimmer than they actually are. They also tend to use a photo that is 1.5 years old, compared to men who use a photo that is 6 months old. So, if you want to know whether a profile that you are reading is mostly lies, keep an eye out for 3 things. Firstly, the number of times that the word I is used. The less often someone uses it, the more likely they are to be lying. Apparently, this reflects a desire to distance ourselves from our lies. Secondly, shorter profiles. These can be a sign that someone is being economical with the truth. People write shorter profiles when they want to avoid telling a lot of lies that they will have to remember later. The less information there is to remember, the easier it will be on the first meeting. And thirdly, keep an eye out for negative statements. People who are lying tend to prefer them to positive statements. For example, a liar will describe himself or herself as not boring or not sad, rather than exciting and happy. Some people say, however, that it is necessary to lie a little bit in your online profile. Perhaps it's even expected, because if you tell the truth, people will believe that you are older, less attractive, and less successful than you actually are. Most online daters know that they have to take what they read with a pinch of salt. Telling little white lies online can also have a positive benefit by encouraging you to live up to the standards that you set in your profile. It's best not to stretch the truth too far, however. One online dater called Karen posted her story on the web. She went to a restaurant expecting to meet a 29-year-old investment banker who enjoyed surfing, swimming, and going to the gym. The person who walked through the door, she wrote, was about 40 and wearing a supermarket uniform. He'd clearly used a photo that was over 10 years old. In those last 10 years, he definitely hadn't been to the gym.
Unit 5, Recording 3.
So, Josh, could you tell me what you were looking for before the date, I mean?
Oh, well, I guess I was hoping that she'd be the one for me, you know. A mix between Beyoncé and Ava Peron. Ursula wasn't that.
Wasn't your first impression of Ursula good?
Oh, no, it was really good. Excellent. She looked great. I've got no idea what she thought of me, though.
That's always the problem, isn't it? OK, so who did she remind you of?
Well, no one in particular, really. But if I had to choose one person, it would be my sister.
OK, and, oh yes, what did you talk about? You know, what topics?
I think we talked about films and books and that sort of stuff. You know, cultural stuff. But, to be honest, most of the time I was so busy trying to eat my lobster that I wasn't listening to what she was saying.
Oh, that doesn't sound very good.
Oh no, lobster probably wasn't the best choice, really.
So, did you have any awkward moments?
Well, at one point, a piece of my lobster flew off my plate and landed on her dress. But luckily, I don't think she noticed.
You don't think she noticed?
Oh no, did she?
You'll have to read the magazine to find out.
Oh.
Now, how similar are you and Ursula?
Well, I think we're actually quite similar. We both get stressed out on first dates.
OK, and finally, what marks out of 10 would you give Ursula?
Oh, I hate that question. I'd have to say 7, possibly 7.5.
OK. Well, thanks. That's... Oh, sorry, I forgot. One last question.
Sure, no problem.
I wanted to ask if you'd want to meet Ursula again.
Oh, yes, definitely. But just as friends, I think.
Great. Well, thanks very much. I hope that you have more success next time.
Unit 5, Recording 4. 1. A.
Their date went really well?
B.
Their date went really well.
2. A.
He's never tried lobster?
B.
He's never tried lobster.
3. A.
Rosie and Sam have split up.
B.
Rosie and Sam have split up.
4. A.
She didn't notice me.
B.
She didn't notice me?
5. A.
You grew up in Santiago?
B.
You grew up in Santiago.
6. A.
That restaurant's closed down?
B.
That restaurant's closed down.
Unit 5, Recording 5. 1.
Their date went really well?
2.
He's never tried lobster?
3.
Rosie and Sam have split up.
4.
She didn't notice me?
5.
You grew up in Santiago?
6.
That restaurant's closed down?
Unit 5, Recording 6. 1.
At my fantasy dinner party, I would have to invite Lady Gaga. I think she'd be a really fun guest to have at a dinner party. It would probably be a fancy dress dinner party, and then I could ask her all about her clothes and where she finds them all. We could talk about her music and fashion and things like that, and I'd also get her to sing some songs at my dinner party as well.
2.
I've always wanted to meet Eddie Murphy, actually. That would be the person that I would choose for my dinner party if I could. And the reason is because I just find him absolutely hilarious. And I'd want to ask him what it is about him that makes him funny. What does he think it is? Because some people just are funny and other people aren't. And I'm really interested to know what that magical ingredient is and if you can teach it or if he's always been funny, which probably he has, and what does he prefer to do most, stand up in front of an audience or movies and TV or interviews. I'd be interested to know the answer to that question.
3.
If I could choose someone to invite, I think it would be Mother Teresa. I think it's someone that's always fascinated me, having travelled quite a lot and seen what you see in countries that aren't your own and the poverty and the illness. I think it's quite amazing that someone gave up their whole life to try and address that problem. And it's someone that's really fascinated me for quite a long time. I'd ask her why she chose to give up her life and help others. I think that she'd be just so fascinating to talk to. And it's someone I really admire, so I'd kind of like to say thank you for the inspiration that she's given me.
4.
I love to meet Marilyn Monroe, so I would definitely invite her. And the first reason would be because to have somebody that beautiful and amazing in a room would just be phenomenal and a one-off. And I then could ask her questions like what colour lipstick is the best red that you can get, and all those girly questions that you could ask. But then I'd ask her stuff about her movie career and whether she felt like she'd ever been in love and who those people would be that she really felt she loved. And I think I'd ask her if she hadn't have died when she did, what she would have liked to have gone on to do after.
5.
I would choose any king or queen from history, but probably I think the most interesting person to have at my dinner party would be Queen Elizabeth I, because there would be so much to ask her about, and she's such a fascinating figure. First of all, I'd like to ask her how she managed to be such a powerful queen for so long when being a woman in those days was difficult enough, and how she maintained her power over all those years. And of course, I'd like to ask her about her day-to-day life and all those domestic details, like was she able to brush her teeth, or was she bald under her wig, or, you know, so many interesting details, which I think would be amazing to find out the truth about them, and how she really felt about being Queen of England, and what that meant to her.
6.
If I could invite anybody I wanted to a dinner party, I think I'd invite David Beckham, because not only is he extremely good looking, but also I think he'd have some really good stories to tell about places he'd been and people he'd met, and the World Cup and what it feels like, just what it feels like to be as famous as he is, really, and what his life's like, I suppose. Yeah, he'd be really good.
Unit 5, Recording 7. 1.
Hello? Hello? Sorry? Yes, that's right. This is Stephen Lloyd, yes. Thanks for getting back to me. Yeah, I left a message earlier about the furniture that you're supposed to be delivering to me at the end of this week. And I wondered if... Sorry? No, it's just that I'm on a train and I keep losing you. We keep going into tunnels. I said I keep losing you whenever we go into a tunnel. Could you speak up a bit, please? No, your voice is very faint. Yeah, that's better, yeah. Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Yeah, sorry, you said that you'll be delivering the furniture on Friday, is that right? About what time?
Sorry? No, your voice has gone very faint. I can hardly hear you. Sorry, you're breaking up. Shall I ring you back? Look, I'm going to call you back, okay? Hello? Hello?
2.
Hello. Thank you for phoning Gasline. You have 3 options. If you want to inquire about new gas products, press 1. If you have an inquiry about an outstanding bill, press 2. Thank you. We are now going to connect you to one of our sales team.
Hello, welcome to Gasline. My name's Andy. How can I help you?
Hello, yes. I'm calling about my bill.
Have you got your customer reference number, please?
Yeah. It's V290-636K.
OK, just get your file up on the screen. Can I just confirm your name and postcode, please?
Yes, it's Christine Ford, and the postcode is MN8-6DK.
OK, that's fine. And how can we help you this morning?
Well, you sent me a bill which I think I paid 3 weeks ago, but you've sent me a letter which says that unless I pay it within 7 days,
Sorry to stop you there. I'll have to put you through to another department, as we don't actually deal with invoices which are more than 3 weeks old. If you just bear with me.
Yes, but...
Hello, customer service department.
Yes, it's about a letter you sent me. The customer reference is V290-636K, and I sent you...
Can you just confirm your name and postcode for me, please?
I've just given all this information to another young man. Do I have to go through all this again? It's MN8-6DK, and my name is Christine Ford. Now, about this bill, you say I haven't paid. Now, I know I made the payment at least...
Sorry, is that M for Michael, N for Nigel?
3.
Yes, hello, Linda Bates speaking.
Hi, it's Jane Markham from Adonis Travel. It's regarding your flights to Istanbul next week. I've just got a couple of queries.
Oh, yes, hello. Sorry, just a second. No, not there, where I told you by the bookcase. Sorry.
Yes, I just wanted to know if you'd mind taking a flight a bit later than the one we discussed.
Mum, have you seen my trainers anywhere?
Please don't interrupt me when I'm on the phone. Yes, sorry, you were saying?
No, don't worry. Am I calling at a bad time? I'll call back later if it's easier for you.
Do you mind? It's just that there are some delivery men and... Will you be careful with that, please? Sorry.
No problem. When would be a good time to call?
Oh, if you give it about an hour, things will have settled down a bit. Thanks.
OK, I'll speak to you later.
OK, thanks, bye.
Bye.
Unit 5, Recording 8. 1.
Thanks for getting back to me.
2.
I left a message earlier.
3.
Could you speak up a bit, please? Your voice is very faint.
4.
Sorry, you're breaking up.
5.
Can I just confirm your name and postcode, please?
6.
I'll have to put you through to another department.
7.
If you'll just bear with me.
8.
It's regarding your flights to Istanbul next week.
9.
Am I calling at a bad time?
10.
When would be a good time to call?
Unit 6, Recording 1. 1.
The Mesopotamians, who lived in modern-day Iraq, Syria and Turkey, were probably the first people to invent writing in about 3200 BC, although it is believed that it was also invented separately in several different places by the ancient Chinese and then later by the tribes who lived in modern-day Mexico.
2.
By the middle of the 16th century, Arab and European astronomers had discovered a great deal about how our solar system works. However, at this point, Europeans still hadn't travelled to many parts of their own planet. Columbus had only arrived in the Americas in 1492, Australia wasn't discovered by Europeans until the 17th century, and Antarctica wasn't explored until the 18th and 19th centuries.
3.
By the middle of the 19th century, we had made big advances in science and engineering. In 1860, the first combustion engine was invented, which led to the invention of the motor car. However, we still hadn't discovered that bacteria cause diseases and didn't realise that we needed to wash our hands in order to prevent the spread of germs. It wasn't until the work of the Frenchman, Louis Pasteur, was published in the 1860s that this idea was put forward, and even then many scientists initially dismissed his ideas as ridiculous.
4.
Today, at the beginning of the 21st century, we have made the most extraordinary technological advances. We have invented the aeroplane, landed on the moon, invented computers and the World Wide Web, as well as countless other amazing pieces of technology. However, bizarrely, we haven't yet discovered a cure for the common cold. A scientific breakthrough has recently been made at Cambridge University, though, which means that a cure may be found in the next decade or so.
5.
Most experts believe that within 20 years or so we will have sent a manned mission to Mars. The US Senate has recently passed a law allowing this to happen. Doctors also believe that we will have found a cure for many forms of cancer and other diseases by then. However, most experts agree that we probably won't have learnt how to control the weather. We will probably have learnt how to modify it in small ways. Indeed, this has already been done. The Chinese government managed to delay rainfall at the opening ceremony of the Beijing Olympics in 2008 by firing rockets into the sky. But it is extremely unlikely that we will have learnt how to control or prevent extreme weather events like storms or hurricanes. Indeed, many scientists believe that it would be dangerous even to try.
Unit 6, Recording 2. 1.
Beethoven wrote some of the greatest symphonies in history.
2.
Captain Cook was the first European to explore Australia and Antarctica.
3.
Federer defeated Murray in the 2012 Wimbledon final.
4.
Marie Sklodowska-Curie won the Nobel Prize twice, once for physics and once for chemistry.
5.
Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin.
6.
Neil Armstrong was the first man to land on the moon.
7.
Aung San Suu Kyi inspired others with her peaceful approach.
8.
Bill Gates donated billions of dollars to help children in Africa.
9.
Usain Bolt broke the record for the 100 meters.
10.
Mark Zuckerberg founded Facebook.
Unit 6, Recording 3. 1.
The achievement that I would like to nominate to be the subject of the programme would be the invention of the internet. It was a man called Tim Berners-Lee, amongst other people, who actually invented the internet, and I think it was an amazing achievement because it's opened up so much of the world in terms of knowledge and communication and technology. I think it's been one of the most important inventions certainly in recent years, but has also changed the way we communicate as a race.
2.
My nomination would be Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon. I just think it's something that even now we look back at and think, wow, how did that happen? How did he do that? How did NASA do that? The technology then was so we've got so much more technology now, and it still feels like it's an amazing event and something really quite difficult to achieve. I think it's a life-changing event as well for the whole world. I think looking back from the moon at the Earth put a lot of things into perspective. So yeah, Neil Armstrong and NASA.
3.
I would have to nominate William Shakespeare. Not only is he a giant in the literary world, but he's also touched everyone's lives, whether they know it or not, throughout history. And I think his plays can be reinvented for every generation, and he speaks timeless truths to everybody. And his works are produced and studied in countries all over the world, and he is probably the most widely read author of literature that the world has ever seen. And for that reason, I would like to nominate him for my short programme.
4.
Well, if you're talking about top 50 human achievements, I dare say places are very limited, but I'd like to include Felix Baumgartner, the guy who went up in a balloon into space and jumped with a parachute. I mean, this guy pushed his personal boundaries literally to the edges of the earth. And I think that's really courageous. I mean, you could ask, has the world changed at all by him jumping out of that and back down to earth? But I think in a subtle way it probably has, because it's an example, it's a role model of somebody who wanted to really test their mettle and their courage and did it. And I think the effects of that will filter down to us all for years to come, really.
5.
I'd like to talk about the Beatles for my subject. They revolutionised music as we know it today, and without them, there wouldn't be pop music. They globalised music, and their songs will endure timelessly. Everybody can name a Beatles tune or 5. And I think that their influence is still being felt in the music industry today. Without them, pop music wouldn't have grown in the way it did. And I think that we are all indebted to what they did to change the face of music in the world today.
Unit 6, Recording 4.
Have you been going out a lot recently?
Unit 6, Recording 5. 1.
Have you passed an important exam this year?
2.
Have you been going out a lot recently?
3.
Have you been feeling tired this week?
4.
Have you broken an arm or a leg?
5.
Have you lost some money recently?
6.
Have you been studying a lot recently?
7.
Have you done all your homework this week?
8.
Have you been spending a lot of money recently?
9.
Have you been abroad this year?
Unit 7, Recording 1. The biggest concert in history.
A new record was set on the 31st of December 1994 when over 3.5 million people attended a Rod Stewart concert in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The venue was Copacabana Beach, where millions celebrate New Year's Eve every year. Some of the crowd who were there were probably just celebrating as usual rather than attending the concert, but it is still recognised by the Guinness Book of Records as the largest ever.
The biggest protest ever.
The largest coordinated anti-war rallies in recent history took place on the 15th of February 2003, all around the world. Protesters were campaigning against the war which was about to begin in Iraq. The largest single protest, which was in Rome, attracted around 3 million people, many carrying placards and banners. The size of the protest surprised even the organisers, who decided to start the march 2 hours early as a result. Most marchers didn't manage to hear the speakers address the crowd as the public square wasn't big enough.
The largest crowd at a sports event.
The 200,000 people who watched the World Cup final in the Maracana Stadium in June 1950 remain to this day the largest stadium crowd at a sports event. The match itself was between Uruguay, who won, and Brazil. But the record for the largest crowd at a single sports event is probably held by the Tour de France. This race attracts 12 to 15 million spectators over the 2 weeks that it is held.
Unit 7, Recording 2. Harriet.
Quite a few of my friends had absolutely huge which cost thousands and thousands of pounds with like a mega expensive dress, a massive cake, loads of flower arrangements everywhere and literally hundreds of guests, loads of their parents' friends. I mean, one of my friends didn't even know some of the guests at her own... I mean, how crazy is that? She had hardly any time to talk to her own friends because she was so busy being polite to people she didn't know. And then you hear all these stories about people getting really stressed beforehand when it's supposed to be like a joyful occasion. Another of my friends fell out with her future mother-in-law over the arrangements. Apparently, the mother-in-law nearly didn't come to though luckily they made it up before the big day. But it's ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, as I say, I'd been to several of these and it was all far too impersonal. There was far too much fuss. So anyway, Freddie and I decided we wanted something completely different. So we've just invited close family and a few old friends to the ceremony and the reception, and we're saving the money my parents gave us to spend on our new flat. We'll have a nice party a couple of weeks later to celebrate with all our friends, and it'll be fantastic. No stress, none of my mother's friends. Heaven.
Bethany.
Is basically a day that most people spend with their families. They have a big family gathering, either at home or in a restaurant, a special meal with special dishes, and everyone eats far too much food, and then no one can move, so they all sit around and watch TV. There are always several big football matches on TV, and there's also a big parade that you can also watch on TV with like amazing floats and costumes and balloons and fireworks. So that's kind of fun to watch if you've got nothing better to do. But basically, it's a pretty lazy day after you've finished eating. And surprisingly, it's not particularly commercial. Very few people exchange presents or cards. You might take a small gift if you're invited to someone's house for a meal, you know, some flowers or a little candy for the kids. But really, it's all quite low-key. It's really nice in that way.
Dan.
I guess I'm a bit of a freak, really. I go to more or less any I can. Sometimes I manage to get work as a steward in return for like a free ticket. It's always really exciting when you arrive. There's this amazing buzz that you get from being surrounded by thousands and thousands of people. You know, all of them there like to enjoy themselves. I love the feeling when you wake up and gradually everyone comes out of their tents and slowly the place comes to life. And there's this build-up of excitement as the bands are about to start playing. First the small bands on several different stages, building up to the headline act at the end of the evening on the main stage. Some are friendlier than others, but there's usually a great atmosphere. You can get talking to anyone, really. The party really starts about midnight after the bands have finished, and I often stay up most of the night. I never get enough sleep. What else? These days, I would say the facilities in most places are pretty good. There are usually enough toilets, though there are always massive queues. And there are plenty of stalls to buy food and drink, though none of it's cheap. And of course, there's always loads of merchandise on sale, band t-shirts and stuff. I always spend far too much money. There's one thing that always annoys me, though. There's never enough water. You know, not enough taps for getting water to wash or drink. And you always have to walk miles to find a tap. Apart from that, I don't have many complaints. I just wish I had more time to see more bands.
Unit 7, Recording 3. 1.
Quite a few of my friends had huge weddings.
2.
They had hundreds of guests.
3.
My friend didn't know some of the guests at her own wedding.
4.
She had hardly any time to talk to her own friends.
5.
We've invited a few old friends.
6.
We'll have a party a couple of weeks later.
7.
Everyone eats far too much food.
8.
Very few people exchange presents.
9.
You take a little candy for the kids.
10.
There are plenty of food stalls.
11.
There isn't enough water available.
12.
I go to any festival I can.
Unit 7, Recording 4. 1.
Do you normally take your time getting up in the morning?
2.
Do you know anyone who's really good at taking photos? Who?
3.
If someone asks you to take a seat, do you stand up or sit down?
4.
If you took up a new sport or interest, what would it be?
5.
Do you ever have to take care of small children? Who?
6.
Which sports do you play? Do you take them seriously?
7.
When you arrive home, what's the first thing you take off?
8.
Who do you take after more in terms of appearance, your mother or your father?
9.
Have you ever taken part in a concert? What was it?
10.
How long did it take you to get here today?
11.
Have any important historical events ever taken place in your town?
12.
Have you taken any notes during this lesson? What about?
Unit 7, Recording 5. 1.
Oh, Bella, you finished. You must be hungry. Go on, have some more. Have the last piece.
Oh, no thank you. It was very nice, but I'm really full.
Oh, go on. I insist. Have the last bit.
No, really, I couldn't manage any more.
OK, maybe I'll finish it then.
2.
Anyway, while I was waiting... Oh, no, I'm so sorry, Bella. I'll get a cloth.
Oh, don't worry, Sally. I can wash it when I get home.
It was really stupid of me.
It doesn't matter. These things happen.
3.
Hi, Bella! It's been a while, hasn't it? How have you been?
Oh, hi there. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Oh, good, good. You know, same old, same old.
So, wow, it's been a long time. When was the last time we met?
Oh, at that party at Jake's house, I think.
Oh, that's right. And how's everything going? You know, job, home life?
Yes, everything's fine, thanks. We've just moved house and...
4.
That man is really annoying.
Who? James, my new boyfriend.
Is he your new boyfriend? Oh, sorry, I didn't realise. I hope I didn't offend you.
No, not at all. His laugh is very annoying. James, could you turn it down a bit?
Sorry, Penny.
5.
So anyway, by the time I found out where he was, I was going crazy with worry. I mean, he's no ordinary cat. As you know, he's got such a sweet personality anyway.
Sally, sorry to interrupt you, but I think there's someone at the door.
Oh, don't worry, I'll hold. I'm sure you want to know what happened in the end.
Well, yes, but I know you're really busy, so I don't want to keep you. I'll call you if I get a chance next week.
Oh, okay, Bella. Sure.
Speak soon. Bye.
Unit 7, Recording 6. 1.
It was very nice, but I'm really full.
2.
No, really, I couldn't manage any more.
3.
Oh, don't worry, Sally.
4.
It doesn't matter. These things happen.
5.
When was the last time we met?
6.
How's everything going?
7.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realise.
8.
I hope I didn't offend you.
9.
I don't want to keep you.
10.
I'll call you if I get a chance.
Unit 8, Recording 1. 1.
Do fish sleep? The answer is yes and no. Fish don't close their eyes and dream like humans, and some of them, such as sharks, have to keep moving or they die. But fish do seem to be less active, physically and mentally, at certain times, and this seems to perform the same function as sleep in humans.
2.
Why don't polar bears' feet freeze? Polar bears are probably the best insulated animals on land. They have about 10 centimetres of fat beneath their thick fur. Their feet are covered in fur too, as well as a thick layer of dead skin, which protects them when they come into contact with the ice. That's why their feet don't freeze.
3.
Can a loud sound kill you? Yes, it can. Sound becomes painful at around 130 decibels. A jet engine around 20 or 30 metres away makes this kind of sound. At around 170 decibels, your eardrums burst, and a sound of 200 decibels will probably kill you.
4.
Can humans catch diseases from plants? Humans can't catch diseases caused by viruses or bacteria from plants. However, they can have an allergic reaction to them. Every summer, millions of people suffer from hay fever, and this is caused by plants.
5.
Why do chili peppers taste hot? They taste hot because of a chemical in them called capsaicin. This chemical tricks your body into thinking it is being burned, even when it is actually not. The capsaicin doesn't harm you, it is all in your mind. Because of its unusual qualities, capsaicin is used by the police in some countries in a special form called pepper spray. It causes temporary blindness, but doesn't do any long-term damage.
Unit 8, Recording 2.
A few days before the Great Exhibition in Paris was due to start, 2 English ladies, Clara Redwood and her 20-year-old daughter Eleanor, arrived in the city on their way back to London from India, where they were escaping the latest outbreak of the plague. Neither woman could speak much French, and it was very difficult to find a hotel room. But after searching for some time, they eventually managed to book the last 2 rooms available at one of the most famous hotels in Paris. After arriving at the hotel, both women signed the register and were shown up to their rooms. The mother was given room 342, a particularly luxurious room, decorated with beautiful red velvet curtains. Almost immediately, however, the mother fell ill and they had to call the hotel doctor. He examined Mrs. Redwood carefully, then called the hotel manager and spoke urgently to him in French. Eleanor didn't understand what they were saying, but after a few minutes, the doctor explained in English that he couldn't leave Mrs. Redwood because she was too ill. So he gave Eleanor a prescription and asked her to go and fetch the medicine her mother needed, which was available only at his surgery on the other side of Paris. The doctor lent Eleanor his own carriage to travel in, but the journey was frustratingly slow, and it was 4 hours before Eleanor finally returned with the medicine. She rushed into the hotel foyer and asked the manager anxiously how her mother was. The manager stared at her blankly. "What are you talking about, madame?" he asked. "I know nothing of your mother. You arrived here alone." The hotel doctor also denied ever meeting her mother, and when Eleanor insisted on seeing the hotel register, only the young woman's signature was there. Eleanor managed to persuade them to take her back to room 342, but her mother had vanished and the room was empty. Even more mysteriously, the decorations appeared to have been completely replaced, and the beautiful red velvet curtains had disappeared. The distraught girl rushed to the British Embassy to tell her story, but officials refused to believe her. Eleanor became ever more frantic with worry, and when she returned to Britain, she was declared insane and put in a mental hospital. However, the girl continued to insist that her story was true, and doctors never found any other evidence that she was mentally ill. Eventually, she was released, but her mother's body was never found.
Unit 8, Recording 3.
So, what is the explanation for this strange disappearance? Many experts in historical mysteries believe that Mrs. Redwood might have brought the plague back with her from India. If this news had become widely known, it would certainly have ruined the Great Exhibition, so the hotel manager might have conspired with the doctor to keep the terrible news a secret. They certainly must have conspired together in some way or other. However, the British Embassy let the young woman down disgracefully. They should have investigated her story more fully at the very least. On the other hand, surely the hotel staff can't have disposed of the body and redecorated room 342 in just 4 hours. Perhaps, after all, Eleanor was insane, and she made the whole story up. But in that case, what did happen to her mother? And why was she never traced again, dead or alive?
Unit 8, Recording 4. 1.
The ladies could speak very little French.
2.
Eventually, they managed to book 2 of the last rooms available in Paris.
3.
Almost immediately, the mother fell ill and they had to call the hotel doctor.
4.
The doctor said that he couldn't leave Mrs. Redwood because she was too ill.
5.
Experts now believe that Mrs. Redwood might have brought the plague back from India.
6.
The hotel manager must have conspired with the doctor in some way.
7.
Surely the hotel staff can't have disposed of the body and redecorated the room so soon.
8.
The British Embassy should have investigated Eleanor's story more fully.
Unit 8, Recording 5. 1.
Oh, I'm so tired. I shouldn't have gone out last night.
2.
My parents are really late. They might have got lost.
3.
These shoes are killing me. I shouldn't have worn them.
4.
What's happened to Anna? She can't have got my message.
5.
I can't find my phone anywhere. I must have left it at work.
6.
It wasn't Isabel's fault. You shouldn't have got angry with her.
7.
I love your new bag. It must have been expensive.
8.
I feel a bit ill. I shouldn't have eaten so much.
9.
I'm really sorry. I must have left my wallet at home.
Unit 8, Recording 6. 1.
25 years ago, you couldn't send emails and texts. So now you can contact somebody really urgently and get a quick response. But 25 years ago, you couldn't.
2.
Something I could do then that I can still do now is speak Italian. We lived in Milan for 4 years when I was young, and I became fluent then.
3.
Well, I'm the mother of teenage children, and something I didn't have to do 10 years ago, which I have to do now, is supervise children's homework. And I must say, it's one of the most frustrating tasks I could ever have imagined.
4.
Yesterday at work, I had to talk to somebody because there'd been a complaint about them. I didn't want to do it because I really like that person, but, well, it's part of my job, so I had to do it.
5.
I should have posted a letter this afternoon, and I remember walking right past the post office and just forgot all about it.
Unit 9, Recording 1.
For many job seekers around the world, getting a job with a top international company like Google is the pinnacle of their ambition. But with so many talented applicants, how does a company find the brightest and best candidate? In the last 15 years, there has been a trend amongst top companies towards asking weird and wacky questions in job interviews, like the ones above. The idea of these questions is to test the creativity and quickness of a candidate, and to find out more about the way that the candidate thinks. Most candidates are unlikely to give an honest answer to a stereotypical interview question like, "What is the biggest failure in your life?" But in answering a question like, "What would I find in your refrigerator right now?" they may reveal more about the kind of person that they are. So, what are the correct answers to these questions? According to Professor Abdul Khalid of London University, many of them do not have right or wrong answers. The most important thing is tackling the question intelligently. When it comes to weird interview questions, it seems the only wrong answer is, "I don't know."
Unit 9, Recording 2. A.
The answer is the same day as you left, in the afternoon. You are travelling west, so you gain 8 hours, but obviously the flight takes 11 hours, so you would arrive the same day at 8 in the evening.
B.
The answer is a red and black insect, although ladybirds, which are a type of beetle, can also be orange or yellow.
C.
The answer is the Czech Republic. Prague is the capital of the Czech Republic, the river Vltava is its longest river, and the Šumava Mountains are located in the southwest of the country.
D.
The answer is you leave hospital. If you leave prison, you are released, unless you escape, of course, and when you leave school or university, you graduate.
E.
The answer is, ironically, the Blue Sea. The Black Sea is between Europe and Asia, the Red Sea lies between Africa and Asia, and the Yellow Sea lies between China and Korea.
F.
The answer is the average distance between the Sun and the Earth. The average distance between the Moon and the Earth is approximately 384,000 kilometres, while the distance from the Sun to the nearest star is 4.3 light years.
Unit 9, Recording 3.
Thank you for coming. Before I start, I'd just like to say how wonderful you all look today. Oh dear.
What are you doing?
Oh, I have to give a presentation in class tomorrow. I'm so nervous.
Why on earth are you nervous?
Why? Because public speaking is absolutely terrifying, of course.
Don't be such a wimp. There are only 9 students in your class.
You're calling me a wimp? It was you who cried in the toilet before your last job interview.
That was an extremely important interview. It was different.
What I need is sympathy right now, not criticism.
You're right. I'm really sorry. I do sympathise. When I'm stressed, what helps is to take deep breaths and listen to some relaxing music.
Oh, OK, thanks. And then you go and cry in the toilet.
Paul!
Unit 9, Recording 4. 1.
I'm absolutely exhausted. Let's stay in and watch a film.
Oh, you're so boring these days. I want to go out.
2.
I really like living here because it's so near the centre.
That's true, but it gets really noisy at night.
3.
Thanks for everything. We've had such a nice evening.
You're welcome. Come again soon.
4.
I suppose you want to see Liz.
No, actually, it was you I wanted to see.
5.
Why on earth are we inside on such a beautiful day?
Well, it was you who wanted to spend the day at a museum.
6.
Ouch! This tooth is so painful.
You know, you really need to go to the dentist's.
7.
What's all this broken glass? What on earth have you been doing?
Don't blame me. It wasn't me who broke it.
8.
Your friend was really lovely. I do hope you'll invite him again.
Yes, I will. I think he really enjoyed the evening as well.
9.
Come on, let's go to that new club.
Look, I really do think it's time we went home. It's nearly 3.
10.
I really think you ought to apologise to her.
Why on earth should I apologise? It wasn't me who started the trouble.
Unit 9, Recording 5.
My name's Rebecca Wade, and I'm going to talk today about how to give a presentation. All of my ideas, incidentally, are available in my book, How to Give Incredible Presentations. Now, when I say presentation, I don't just mean standing on a stage talking to lots of people. We all have to make presentations these days, often to colleagues or classmates, and the audience may be just a few people rather than a few hundred. And success in life often depends on being able to communicate your ideas effectively to a group of people. So, the advice I'm going to give is true for all these situations. And why do we need this advice? Well, according to some studies, most people's number one fear in life is public speaking. This means that standing in front of a room full of people, for some of us at least, is scarier even than death. But it doesn't need to be if you follow these simple tips. First, let's start with a few important points. Firstly, never read out your presentation. There is nothing more boring for an audience than listening to someone reading out notes. It makes for a monotonous intonation in your voice, and your audience will quickly realise that they could get the same information in half the time just by reading your script. And secondly, try not to move around too much or talk too fast, especially at the beginning of a presentation. Keep your head and hands still. It takes an audience a bit of time to get used to your voice, and if you're dancing around at the front of the room trying to be energetic, it can be very distracting. And the last point is this. Nothing is more annoying for an audience than to be kept waiting, particularly at the end of a presentation when everyone is probably desperate for a coffee. So, try to make sure you start and finish on time. Be nice to them and they'll be nice to you.
Unit 9, Recording 6.
So, we've looked at the things you shouldn't do. Now let's look at the things you should do. In terms of planning your presentation, try to remember this simple rule. Less is more. Fewer slides are better than a lot of slides. If you have 30 slides for a 30-minute talk, that's too many. Your audience will suffer from information overload and they won't be able to pay attention to you as you speak. In fact, this is the classic mistake that presenters make. They spend so long preparing a set of fancy, colourful, animated slides that they forget to think about what they're actually going to say and how they're going to say it. Generally, one slide for every 2 minutes of your talk is plenty. Remember also that fewer words on a slide is better than more words. And as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Secondly, it's a good idea to think carefully about the first few lines of your presentation. These are often the most difficult because your stress levels are highest when you begin speaking. So if you can get through these lines, the rest usually follows quite smoothly. And lastly, in terms of planning, try to practice your presentation at least once before you give it. Find a friend who's willing to sit and listen and then ask for their honest opinion. And what about delivering your presentation? What tips can help? Well, many presenters have keywords on cards that they can hold and look at while they talk. That way, if they forget what they want to say, which is a big fear for many people, the cards will remind them. The second tip that really helps a lot of presenters is to remember to make eye contact with people in the audience as early as possible. This really helps to build rapport and understanding. And thirdly, don't forget to include some interaction. Ask your audience for their opinion near the start of the talk. Sometimes it helps if you ask a question and then give your audience some time to discuss the answer with the person they're sitting next to. So, that's about all I have time for right now. If you want to learn more about my ideas, please visit my website or you can follow me on.
Unit 9, Recording 7.
How's work? Are you still feeling fed up?
Yeah, especially with this new boss. I absolutely hate every minute of it. I just want to do something different. A job where I can get out of the office and meet new people and talk about something I'm actually interested in.
Like what?
I don't know, but there must be something better than this. Any suggestions?
This might sound a bit strange, but have you ever thought about becoming an estate agent? I think it would be a really good idea. You know how much you love looking around other people's houses, and you're always watching property programmes on TV and stuff.
Yeah, actually, I have thought about it before, but I've no idea if I'm qualified to do it or not.
I'm sure a lot of it's personality, and you've definitely got the right kind of personality for that job. Confident and good at persuading people. You ought to look into it, you know.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. I ought to. I don't know where to start, though.
You could look online, I suppose. There must be websites giving information about that sort of thing. Or why not go into an estate agent's and just ask? I'm sure they like people who show initiative.
It would be good if I knew someone who could give me some advice, you know, so that I know what they're looking for.
I know what you mean. Hang on. I know what you should do. Remember my friend Alex? His mum used to be an estate agent. I'm sure she'd give you some advice. Why don't you have a chat with her? She's really, really nice.
Do you think she'd mind?
Of course not. Go on, give her a call. Why not? I'll text Alex and get her number.
Well, OK then. Yeah, thanks.
Unit 9, Recording 8.
Hello, Jenny Harrison speaking.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Harrison. You don't know me, but my name's Lisa Allen. Your son Alex gave me your number. I hope you don't mind me calling you.
Not at all. Alex said you were going to call. What can I do for you?
Well, I'd like some advice about careers, basically. The thing is, I'm working as a PA at the moment, but I'm really looking for a career change and, well, I'm interested in becoming an estate agent, and I just wondered if you've got any advice about what I should do. I mean, are there qualifications that I need, or can I just apply? I don't know.
Well, you certainly need qualifications if you want to progress in the job, so you should definitely look into that. I can tell you which websites to look at, but to be honest, the most important thing is personality. You do need to be very outgoing and confident, and obviously you need to be interested in everything to do with houses.
Oh, well, I'm certainly all of those things.
And obviously it's essential to have good computer skills. And these days you need good digital photography skills. So if you're not very good with a camera, I would recommend taking a course.
No, actually, I can do both of those things.
Well, that's good. You know what I would advise? I would suggest that you try to get a weekend job with a local estate agent showing people around houses. A lot of estate agents have extra staff just for the weekend because they're so busy then. I think that would be really useful. That way you can see whether you really like it. And obviously it would give you a bit of experience.
That's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you. How do you think I should apply?
If I were you, I'd just write to all the estate agents in the area with your CV, telling them a bit about yourself and what you want to do. I'm sure if you try hard enough, you'll find something.
That's great, thank you. I really appreciate your advice.
You're welcome and good luck. I hope you find something.
Thanks.
Unit 9, Recording 9.
Asking for advice and suggestions.
Any suggestions? I'd like some advice about careers. I just wondered if you've got any suggestions about what I should do.
Giving advice and suggestions.
Have you thought about becoming an estate agent? You ought to look into it, you know. You could look online, I suppose. Why not go into an estate agent's and ask? I know what you should do. Why don't you have a chat with her?
You should definitely look into that. To be honest, the most important thing is personality. It's essential to have good computer skills. I would recommend doing a course. You know what I'd advise? I would suggest that you try to get a weekend job. If I were you, I would write to all the estate agents in the area.
Responding to advice.
Yeah, perhaps you're right. That's a really good idea. I hadn't thought of that. That's great, thank you. I really appreciate your advice.
Unit 10, Recording 1.
And now it's time for Quiz the Expert. Our expert this week is Monica Jessup. Monica will be familiar to some of our listeners. She has worked at a number of top UK universities. Good to have you on the programme, Monica.
Thanks, Doug.
So, Monica, our first question comes from a caller in South Wales. Hello, Ewan?
Yes, hello.
What's your question for our expert, Ewan?
OK, well, a question I've always wanted to ask is, who actually controls the media?
Well, Ewan, the simple answer is it depends. In some countries, the government controls the media. In other countries, it's private individuals or companies who own it. What we call mass media nowadays also includes the internet. And you could argue that we all own that because we can all set up a website. However, there are certainly some very large media corporations that own and control a lot of what we see and hear. In the US around 25 years ago, there were 50 major media corporations. Now there are just 6.
Does that answer your question, Ewan?
Yes, I think it does. Thanks.
Great stuff. Now on to Fred from Bristol.
Thanks, Doug. Monica, I'm interested in your opinion. Does the media reflect what we think, or does the media control what we think? I mean, Do we just think about the things that the media wants us to think about?
Ah, the eternal question, Fred. It used to be said that the most powerful person in the country was the newspaper editor, because he, and it always was a he, decided what went on the front page, and so decided what was important and what wasn't. However, the internet has had an impact. Now anyone can create news. With the camera in our smartphones, we can record a high-definition video of an event, upload it to the internet, and hey presto, people all over the world can see. Big media corporations are being cut out. Sites like globalvoicesonline.org are bringing the news directly from the people who are experiencing it, inside war zones, for example. So, in answer to your question, while the media does still control what we think to some extent, people are now able to use the media to reflect what they think.
That's a fascinating idea. I must check it out. Thanks for that question, Fred. Now we have Damien in Leeds. Hi, Damien. What's your question?
Oh, yes. You mentioned how the internet has changed news, Monica. How else has the internet changed things? How has it affected the world of media?
Well, of course, it's introduced a lot of new words to our language. Who had heard of microblogging before the internet? But more importantly, I believe the internet has made media more interactive. Media used to be a one-way process. They spoke and we listened. Now it's much more like a dialogue. Every article has reader comments below it. Every concert is reviewed and discussed on Twitter. Unfortunately, I think the internet has also made us all more separate from each other. We're all watching and listening to different things. Young adults now probably don't even remember the time when everyone watched the same thing on television and then talked about it the next day at work or college. In 1986, the top-rated TV show in the UK got 30 million viewers. That's half the population. 25 years later, the top-rated show got less than half that number. As a society, we just don't share the same experiences anymore. We watch and listen to different things.
OK, thanks, Monica. And thanks, Damien, for that question. We've only got time for one more question, I think, which is from Lisa in Edinburgh.
Hi, Monica.
Hi, Lisa. What's your question?
Well, you mentioned newspapers earlier. They're having a hard time of things. Will we still read newspapers in the future?
Most countries have seen a drop in newspaper circulation in the last few years, particularly broadsheets. They're finding it much harder to survive and many have gone out of business. It's not just the loss of readers that is a problem. In the US, newspapers make almost 90% of their money from advertising. When circulation drops, fewer people want to advertise in the newspaper, and they won't pay as much to advertise.
OK, thanks, Monica. Fascinating as always to talk to you, and thanks for taking part in Quiz the Expert. Now it's time for travel news. Gary, over to you.
Unit 10, Recording 2. 1.
So I'm afraid Rachel isn't here at the moment, Sheila.
Well, can you tell her to call me back as soon as she gets in? It's something quite important I need to discuss with her. You won't forget, will you?
Of course I won't.
2.
Zoe, have you borrowed any money from my purse? I thought I had a lot more than £20.
No, I haven't. I haven't touched it. You always think everything's my fault.
3.
I want to go first.
OK, Alex, you can have the first turn, but only for about 10 minutes. Then it's Rosie's turn. Is that clear?
OK.
Unit 10, Recording 3. 1.
Debbie said she was feeling ill.
2.
Debbie said she was feeling ill.
Unit 10, Recording 4. 1.
The weather forecast said it was going to be nice today.
2.
The police officer told us there was nothing to worry about.
3.
Our teacher said the test was going to be easy.
4.
Claire told me she was staying in tonight.
5,
Johnny said the money was his.
6,
She said she couldn't afford to come out for a meal with us.
7,
Nick said he would be home early.
8,
Alex told me she'd passed the exam.
Unit 10, Recording 5. Diana, Princess of Wales.
When Diana, Princess of Wales, was interviewed on television in November 1995, she was still married to Prince Charles. Diana admitted being in love with someone else during her marriage, and admitted that the relationship had been more than a friendship. At the same time, she accused her husband of having a close relationship with another woman, and explained that the stress had led to an eating disorder. Coming from the future Queen of England, this was extraordinary. The hour-long interview caused a media storm. The following year, Diana and Charles divorced, and 2 years later, she died in a car crash in Paris.
Richard Nixon.
In 1977, young British reporter David Frost invited Richard Nixon to be interviewed on television. Ex-US President Nixon was paid $600,000 plus 20% of the profits for his involvement. It became perhaps the most famous TV interview of all time, and was even made into a film. Nixon had resigned the presidency in 1974 after being accused of committing certain crimes. In the interview, Nixon denied committing the crimes and refused to accept he had done anything criminal. However, he accepted that he had let the American people down, and he confessed to making a lot of bad judgments. The interviews were hugely successful and made Frost famous.
Unit 10, Recording 6. 1.
Actions speak louder than words means that what you do is more important than what you say.
2.
Someone who speaks their mind isn't afraid to say exactly what they mean.
3.
It's rude for work colleagues to talk shop when outsiders are present.
4.
He knows what he's talking about. He's an expert on gardening.
5.
If you speak highly of someone, you say good things about them.
6.
A talking point is a subject lots of people want to discuss.
7.
Talk radio has phone-ins and interviews rather than music.
8.
If your voice is very quiet, people may ask you to speak up.
9.
Talking to yourself is often considered to be a sign of eccentricity.
10.
Small talk is polite, friendly conversation about unimportant topics.
11.
They had a huge argument. Since then, they haven't been on speaking terms.
12.
Peace talks are negotiations between the two sides in a war.
13.
A talk show features interviews with celebrity guests.
Unit 11, Recording 1. 1.
If I could wave a magic wand and speak another language fluently, I think I would probably choose Chinese, because I think it's going to be important to speak Chinese in the future, but it's really hard to learn. I think learning it by magic would probably be my best chance.
2.
If I could change one thing about my appearance, I would change the colour of my hair. My hair's a kind of mousy brown colour, and I really wish I had naturally black hair. It's just not the same if you dye it black. It's not as shiny and natural looking.
3.
I'd never go and live abroad under any circumstances. Emigrate. I would just miss home too much. My family, food, everything about living in my country. It's nice to go to other countries on holiday and see other places and other cultures, but it's also nice to come home.
4.
I do really wish I was better with technology. Everything I touch just seems to go wrong, and it makes me really nervous about using any kind of new gadget. It's a real problem these days. I wish I didn't have to ask my daughter or my husband to help me all the time. They'd get annoyed with me.
5.
If I could be any animal, I think I'd be a cat. I mean, think about it. They are really independent creatures. They can go out, do what they like, but they get totally looked after, and they can sleep all day. I think it would be the perfect life, really.
Unit 11, Recording 2.
Asteroid. Catastrophe. Dioxide. Dinosaur. Eruption. Fuel. Nuclear. Ocean. Radioactive. Scientific. Solar. Surface. Temperature. Volcanic. Volcano.
Unit 11, Recording 3. Case 1.
Miss K, a 15-year-old secondary school student, wants to have plastic surgery to change the shape of her nose. Although no one at her private girls' school has bullied her about it, she feels that peer pressure to look attractive is very strong, and she says the issue is affecting her self-esteem and making her depressed. It is Miss K's ambition to become a corporate lawyer, and she believes that her nose will also affect her career prospects. Her wealthy parents don't believe that her nose is such a serious problem and feel that she should wait until she is at least 21, as she may feel differently about it by then. However, they have said that they will pay for the surgery if doctors agree that it is in their daughter's best interests.
Case 2.
A 6-year-old boy, S, has been diagnosed by doctors with attention deficit disorder, ADHD, and prescribed a new drug which he will probably have to take until he is an adult. The drug is not thought to lead to dependency, but the long-term effects are not fully known. His mother, who is separated from his father and who has custody of their 3 children, is keen to try the drug. She says his problem is badly affecting his life, both at school and at home. He is distracted at school, is already falling behind other children in his schoolwork, and his teachers are unsympathetic. At home, his bad behaviour causes constant stress, and his mother says that the only thing that keeps him calm is playing computer games. His father, who lives 100 kilometres away, is against him taking the drug. He says that his son is just a normal boy who needs to move to a more disciplined school with a calmer working environment, and that he needs to play outside more instead of staying indoors and playing computer games.
Case 3.
Dr. Z, a prominent National Health Service specialist, has created a big stir in the media by publicly questioning whether he should treat a patient who is a heavy smoker. The woman, Mrs. X, who is in her early 60s, has a life-threatening illness that requires expensive surgery and medication. She has been a lifelong smoker and says that she cannot give up. Dr. Z says that treating her does not represent value for money for the taxpayer, as she is shortening her life expectancy considerably by smoking. However, opponents of Dr. Z point out that Mrs. X, who is a retired school secretary, was a taxpayer all her working life. Furthermore, her illness is not directly linked to smoking, and she is currently in good enough general health to undergo surgery and treatment. But as the ageing population grows and healthcare gets more and more expensive for the state, the case is causing huge public debate.
Unit 11, Recording 4. 1.
Lila, can I ask you something?
Sure.
Lila, I just wanted to ask something important. I wanted to ask if you would tell me where you bought that phone. It's so cool.
Oh, thanks, Ian. I bought it online. Anything else?
No, that's all. Oh dear, that was my perfect opportunity. She might have said yes if I'd asked her out.
2.
I work here, at a speed race track. It's my dream job. I wouldn't be here now if I had followed my parents' wishes and become a lawyer.
3.
Bye, Sally. See you tomorrow. You know, I had an argument with Sally a few years ago. A big, screaming argument. It was difficult for a while, but we stayed in touch. I kept calling her, trying to work it out, and we did in the end. If I hadn't kept in touch with her, we wouldn't be friends now.
4.
Oh dear, another late evening in the office. If I'd left work on time, I would have seen my children before they went to bed.
Unit 11, Recording 5. 1.
Do you have any lifelong ambitions?
2.
Have you ever been rescued by a lifeguard?
3.
Do you find it easy to talk about your private life?
4.
Is anyone making life difficult for you at the moment?
5.
Which film star would you like to meet in real life?
Unit 11, Recording 6.
2 recent opinion polls have given new life to the debate on animal testing. So, Sasha, what do the polls reveal?
Well, they show that the majority of people feel that medical research on animals is justified in some circumstances. Only around 1 in 5 people believe that it is never acceptable under any circumstances.
Well, that seems quite clear. What else do the polls show?
Well, the problems start when you ask what sorts of experiments are justified. 3/4 of people, for instance, think that experiments on monkeys and other primates should not be allowed. And more than 4 out of 5 people think that experiments which cause severe suffering or pain should be banned. However, just over half the people polled also said that experiments on new medicines should be allowed. The problem, of course, is what if that experiment on a new medicine causes severe pain to the animal?
I see. What do people feel about testing cosmetics on animals?
Well, that's very clear. The vast majority of people, over 90%, are against that.
So, how would you summarise the polls overall?
Generally speaking, it's a mixed picture, but the results certainly show that more and more people are concerned about animal testing.
OK, well, thank you for that brief roundup, Sasha. On to other news where...
Unit 12, Recording 1.
A celebrity is a person who works all his life to become well known, then wears dark glasses to prevent people from recognizing him.
Being a star was never as much fun as dreaming about being a star.
If you don't want to be forgotten as soon as you are dead, either write things that are worth reading or do things that are worth writing about.
A writer's fame is the best kind to have. It is enough to get you a good table in a restaurant, but not enough to mean that you are interrupted while you are eating.
I don't want to achieve immortality through my work. I want to achieve it through not dying.
Being a sex symbol was rather like being a convict.
There is only one thing worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about.
Unit 12, Recording 2. 1.
An unnamed entertainer has today taken out an injunction to prevent the news media from publishing details of an extramarital affair that he had with a colleague last year. The entertainer, a married father of 3, is described as a household name with a strong image as a family man. He says in a statement released by his lawyers that he and his family have a right to privacy and that he has taken legal action to prevent his children from being bullied and teased at school.
2.
The singer Charlotte Morland appeared in court today to describe the suffering that phone hacking by tabloid newspapers has caused her and her family. Repeated hacking into her private voicemail messages meant that details of her mother's mental illness were published in a number of newspapers, eventually causing her mother to have a breakdown. Miss Morland described the paranoia she experienced as she read newspaper stories about information that she had only revealed to close friends and family members, and how she had wrongly accused friends of selling stories to journalists.
Unit 12, Recording 3.
And today we have heard news of an unnamed entertainer, let's call him X, who has taken out an injunction to prevent the media from reporting his extramarital affair, in order, X claims, to protect his children from playground bullying. Also this week, stories about the hacking of celebrities' phones continue to emerge, especially the sad story of Charlotte Morland and her mother. So today we're asking you, is the way that the media behaves towards celebrities acceptable? Should the law protect the privacy of the famous and their families, or should celebrities shut up and just accept that this is the price they pay for fame and publicity? Tell us what you think. First, over to Becky in Somerset. Hello, Becky, and welcome to the show. Tell me, what's your reaction to the stories we've heard this week?
Hello, Andrew. Well, I think it's right that the law protects famous people and their families and allows them to have a normal life. I mean, this X, whoever he is, his children are innocent, aren't they? They deserve to have the right to a normal life, like other children. It isn't really any of our business what X does or doesn't do. It's his wife's business, not ours. So I think what's happened is right.
You don't think that if people choose to be in the public eye, then they should just put up with this kind of thing if it happens?
Well, their children don't choose to be famous, do they? And they're the ones who are going to suffer here.
Fair enough, Becky. Thanks for your views. Over to Carl in Liverpool now. Carl, do you agree with Becky?
No, I disagree 100%. If what I've read is right, this is someone who appears on family TV shows, who has his photograph in magazines with his wife and children, who makes a lot of money out of being in adverts looking like the perfect family man. And then he goes and has an affair. I mean, it's really hypocritical, isn't it? If he wants to make money out of being seen as a family man, then he should behave like one. And if he doesn't, then I think we have the right to know about it.
OK then, strong views there from Carl in Liverpool. Leslie in Bristol, I believe you agree with Carl. Can you tell us briefly why?
Hi, Andrew. Yes, I just want to say that if X doesn't want his children to be upset, he should think about that before he starts having an affair. That's the same for anyone, isn't it? If you don't want your kids to suffer, you don't do things like that. So if they do get teased at school, then it's his own fault. You can't blame the media.
Thank you, Leslie. And here's a text from Carol in Derbyshire, agreeing with Carl and Leslie. She says simply, X is not taking legal action to protect his children, it's to protect himself. Thank you for that, Carol. It's an opinion expressed in many other texts and emails that we've received from our listeners. OK, now over to Gemma in Cardiff. Gemma, you want to talk about the Charlotte Morland story?
That's right. I just want to say how disgusted I am to hear what the newspaper did to Charlotte Morland and her mother. I think what happened to her mother is a disgrace, and it really makes me feel ashamed to be British. I just can't believe that this kind of thing is allowed to happen.
Well, of course, if the journalist who is accused of hacking is found guilty, he could be sent to prison. And we also know that the Morland family are likely to receive several £100,000 in compensation. But presumably you don't think that makes up for the suffering they have been through.
No, I don't think so. I don't think anything can compensate for that kind of trauma.
Well, thank you, Gemma. We've received a large number of texts and emails making the same point as Gemma, so thank you very much for those too. But Robert in London, you want to make a different point about this story.
Good morning, Andrew. Yes, I do. The fact of the matter is that tabloid newspapers only publish stories if they think that people want to read them. So they must know that stories like this one sell newspapers. And the people texting you saying how terrible they think the newspapers are, well, they're probably the same people who read the stories about Charlotte Morland and her mother. So isn't it we, the public, who are the real hypocrites, not the journalists?
Very interesting point there, Robert. Thank you for calling. So what do you think? Call, text or email us and share your thoughts. And now some music from a new band.
Unit 12, Recording 4. 1,
She asked me not to be late.
2,
I'm unhappy about not working.
3,
I'd like to have travelled more.
4,
He needs to be told.
5,
She seems to be sleeping.
6.
I really like being asked my opinion.
Unit 12, Recording 5. 1,
If I had to be famous, I would like to be famous for being a painter. I think it would be nice to be famous for being a painter because I really enjoy painting, and it would be nice to be famous, but mainly because I really enjoy painting.
Challenge! Repetition!
Oh.
2,
I think it must actually be more difficult because I don't think you would know who were genuine friends and who just wanted to be friends with you because you were famous. I think that being famous brings its own problems. I think suddenly everyone wants to be your friend, and therefore forging any sort of real friendship with someone must be really difficult, let alone forming a relationship with someone of the opposite sex that you might want to marry or be a partner with.
Well done. That's 30 seconds.
Wow.
3,
I would love to appear on a reality TV programme, especially if it was one where you could learn to dance really well. I think learning to dance would be amazing, and what a great opportunity.
Challenge. Sorry, you hesitated there.
Copyright Pearson Education Limited, 2013.